Welcome back to another episode of We Don't Know What to Watch, the podcast where two guys watch random movies thanks to the almighty algorithm. All hail the algorithm. And with me is the Wanda Maximoff to my vision, Kyle Mulford. How's it going, Kyle? And also, am I dead?
I create my own reality.
Okay, I figured. I mean, I haven't seen you in a long time. Are you just in your own little bubble house, or?
I am. Just like everyone else. We've
Mhm.
created our own little worlds here in our home, quarantined.
All right, this is one of our mini episodes, which sometimes become maxi episodes, called What You Watchin', where we talk about the latest films that we're watching. And do you want to go first, or should I go first?
I'll run through mine first this week. Starting things off, I talked about one of the HBO Max movies on another podcast, Wonder Woman 84. So now another one has come out that was simultaneously released on theater and HBO Max. I watched The Little Things. And this is a cop drama with Denzel Washington and Rami Malek and Jared Leto. So, all Oscar winners. Pretty nice cast. I think that's its strong point is the cast, because I really thought it just felt bland through most of the movie. It was basically Rami Malek is an upcoming detective, the young buck and, full of piss and vinegar and go get them and all that stuff. And then Denzel Washington he used to be that guy, and then he left to become a deputy in another town because there's, and then he ends up coming back to the city, and like there's a lot of stuff going on where you're like, what did he do that like a lot of people don't like him, and so there's.
Is this secretly a sequel to Training Day?
Yeah, maybe. But and then they're kind of after they end up teaming up to try and find this serial killer, and then you kind of gradually learn Denzel's past with another case, and they think that Jared Leto might be the serial killer. So
I mean, it is Jared Leto, so
yeah, and Jared Leto is delightfully like just creepy in this movie. Mm-hmm. I thought the ending I liked the ending. I think there's some people that didn't, from what I've heard, but I liked where they went with the ending. But overall, like I said, pretty generic, just with a good cast. So,
So it wasn't necessarily a case where like the cast really elevates the material.
No, it wasn't. They weren't enough to save it, I don't think. It was one of those where I'm like, I'm glad that came out on streaming at the same time as theater, and I did not pay to see this in the movie theater. Then I bought a copy of Hacksaw Ridge, so I watched that on Blu-ray, and that's a rewatch for me. I love that movie. I think it's wonderful. Story about a real life guy from World War II. World War II?
I think so.
Yeah, because they're fighting the Japanese there. He's a conscientious objector, but he still signs up for the military to go to war because he doesn't think it's fair. Other people are dying while has a privileged life at home. So this guy named Desmond Doss, but when going into the army and going to the war, he says he will not pick up a gun, and so he becomes a medic. And like the heroics that he showed were amazing, and I've read up on him after watching the movie, and there was even one point Mel Gibson directed the movie. Say what you want of him, this is a great movie that he directed. He's a good director, and he even said that there's some stuff that he left out because the story, like everything he did, was so fantastical you would not have believed it if he put it in the movie. And after reading up, I was even going like, I watched the movie going, wow, one person did all of that, and then you read up on him and go, wow, he actually did do more than they showed in the movie. That's insane. But no, I really like that movie. I think Andrew Garfield does a great job. So, and then what did I watch this on? On Pluto TV, I watched a fun musical with such hits as Shut Your Fucking Face, Uncle Fucker, and what else do we got in there? We got Blame Canada. I watched South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. This one I actually saw twice in the theater because It came out in 1999. I was a couple years into college. So I was in my freshman year when South Park first came on in '97. So I was a big fan of the first few seasons of South Park, and so I went and saw this, and then it came out in the summer, I remember, and I went and saw it, and then when I came back to school, it was still in the theater, and my roommate hadn't seen it yet. I was like, dude, you got to see this movie. So I went again with him. I I love it. I love South Park. It's Trey Parker and Matt Stone are pretty funny, and they really go places that I'm sure a lot of people are afraid to go with their humor, and it sometimes you're like, woo, that's a bit much, but most of the time you're like, that's a bit much, but it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I love the music that the songs they put in. I mean, didn't Blame Canada actually end up winning the Oscar?
I know it was nominated.
It was nominated, and Robin Williams came out and sang it, I think.
Yeah.
Because I kind of remember that from the Oscars. That was kind of a fun moment. Just even having that song nominated was awesome. But no, I if you're a fan of the show, I would recommend the movie. It's quite fun.
Yeah, I can't say I've never really watched South Park. It's always a little too young for it now, just would never quite interested me. But I did enjoy my times with like Book of Mormon. I was able to see a traveling production of that, the musical that they made with Bobby Lopez, who of course now is like one of the best Disney composers.
Yeah, see, I haven't seen Book of Mormon yet, and everything I've heard is it's amazing. Because I like their other movies, like Basketball is super fun. Orgasmo's pretty funny. So I did, and I think I mentioned it on another podcast. I did rewatch Team America World Police like a month or two ago, and that one was still funny, but like I don't think that held up as much as some of their other movies.
Mm-hmm.
Then Netflix DVD came, and I watched La Bamba from 1987 with Lou Diamond Phillips, and this is the story of Richie Valens, who was Richard Valenzuela. He was a teenager. His family came up into California. I think he always lived in California, but they like moved closer to LA, and then he gets into a garage band, and he gets discovered by someone played by a producer or whatever, played by Joey Pants in this movie. And he was only like 16, and he started going on the road and everything. And then finally at age 17, he plays in Clear Lake, Iowa at the Surf Ballroom, which is about 45 minutes from where I grew up, and got on a plane afterwards in the snow with Big Bopper and Buddy Holly, and the rest is history. But this is kind of, what's that?
Yeah, a really weird, sad chapter of history.
It really is. I mean, that day in history is literally called the day that music died. So, I mean, it really is a tragic, especially since he was only 17 years old, and he was on his way to becoming huge, So, the movie's really good. It's just kind of him in high school and trying to make his big break. So it's like just a couple of years covered in the movie because, like I said, his life was ended tragically short. But I really recommend the movie. So that was another rewatch. I have a lot of rewatches this time. And then another one that I rewatched on Amazon Prime was Face Off. I'm going to take his face off.
Oh man, that's.
Do I need to say anything about this movie? It's a John Woo film. John Travolta and
Nicolas Cage.
And Nicolas Cage.
One of his nuttiest.
Castor Troy and what was Nicolas Cage's name now? I just watched it.
I don't know. Yeah, I thought Nicolas was Castor Troy.
No. No, Nicolas Cage is Castor Troy. Oh, John Travolta. That's the. I can't think of his character's name now. But
who cares?
Anyway, he's an FBI agent. Nicolas Cage has a bomb planted in, I think they're in LA, and he goes into a coma, and the only other person who knows about this bomb is Nicolas Cage's brother. And so John Travolta ends up getting a face transplant where he gets Nicolas Cage's face. And then Nicolas Cage wakes up and finds he has no face. So he puts on John Travolta's face, and it is exactly as crazy as it sounds. And it's so much fun.
Yes, it is.
And you get the line, I could eat a peach for hours. Still not sure what that means, but
I don't know. I'm not necessarily sure we want to know.
I don't think I want to know.
But
But super fun movie.
yep,
Another rewatch on Amazon Prime. I watched from 1987, Robocop. Dead
nice.
or alive, you're coming with me.
I'm still mad we never got that Robocop versus Terminator movie.
That would be awesome. I mean, we got Robocop versus Terminator games, right? Didn't we? There was an arcade game, I think.
Yeah, there were games for it because there was a comic for it, and the comic is actually really good. If you just adapted the comic, it'd be a great movie. But
Yeah. Robocop's wonderful. It's another one most people don't need much introduction to.
mhm.
Peter
Well,
Weller. Well, I'm having one of those trouble with names nights again.
that's okay.
Buckaroo Banzai is a, is a cop, and he comes into Detroit South or West or East or whatever, into the bad section of Detroit, and he gets paired up with Nancy Allen, and they go after Red Foreman from that '70s show, Clarence Boddicker, played by Kurtwood Smith, and they can't get any backup there in time, so they go in after them, and Clarence Boddicker's gang just completely annihilates Murphy, Peter Weller's character. Just shoot him up to shit, just
Mhm.
pulp into pulp. And then you got Miguel Ferrer, who has a new program he wants to try, and he's a perfect candidate. He wants the RoboCop franchise, half
Yeah,
man, half robot.
a bit of almost like a $6 million man sort of situation, but instead of like that, there's definitely the whole sort of like corporatization, privatization of public goods, and of course, definitely that's the bigger social satire element of it.
Yeah, it's a very cynical and satirical and all that stuff, and it's set in the future. I don't remember. It might even be set in like our present day. I think it might be set in 2017 or something like that, but
Nice.
I'm not positive. No, that's another movie I'm thinking of. But yeah, so then it almost becomes like he becomes this robot cop, but then it almost turns into like this revenge flick too, because he ends up going after he starts getting his memories back and goes after all of the gang and just
Yeah,
brutally murders them.
it's a great yeah. It's an addition to the satire. It's just a very solid action movie on its own.
Yeah, so very much bloody and gross,
Hmm.
but that was his whole purpose in doing that. Was high recommend for that one.
Moral of the story: RoboCop versus Terminator. Make it happen.
Make it so.
Yeah,
I mean, they're
because
still making Terminator movies. Why not?
at this point, they don't have, they might as well because come on, it's a genius idea. It's a genius pitch where like, what if RoboCop was the original prototype for the Terminator program?
That'd be pretty cool.
And it kind of goes from there.
Yeah,
Does that mean like a human gets sent back to kill RoboCop?
nice.
Like Terminators get sent back to protect RoboCop?
I don't know, but it needs to be done.
Yeah. If you can come across a copy of that comic, it's a lot of fun.
All right, so another one on Amazon Prime. I think I watched a lot of stuff on Amazon Prime these last couple weeks. This one was actually a new to me movie. From 1980, I watched American Gigolo, and this is well, I think it was last episode I talked about internal affairs and how Richard Gere just sleeps with every woman in that, and because he's a dreamy Richard Gere. Well, you want dreamy Richard Gere, you get full frontal in this
This
movie.
is maximum gear
Maximum Gear.
or top gear. I don't know.
He plays a gigolo who gets someone. He kind of gets a really big reputation, but they gives him a big head, and he's works for a couple different people, and they're upset about it, and he ends up getting framed for murder, trying to figure out how to deal with that, like without giving up his clients and all the stuff in like their privacy and all that, like talking to the cops, but not giving them everything because he's a gigolo. I mean,
But
it's
hey, man,
against the
I'm part
law.
of the
So
business here.
yeah, so But then it turns into him trying to figure out who's trying to frame him. And then there's a whole thing with Faye Dunaway where I didn't really understand that part of the movie. Like, she comes in, she's a senator's wife, and falls in love with him, and like, it seemed so forced and crammed in there, that storyline. So
Is it just like Loverboy?
no, he doesn't deliver pizzas.
Nice.
Extra anchovies, please. It was an okay movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'd recommend it if you haven't seen it before. And then the last movie I've got on my list here is another rewatch. I watched on Amazon Prime again. 2008 film Tropic Thunder.
I've never seen this one, but I've known like bits of it, I guess, like the weird Tom Cruise guy, or like the
Les Grossman.
yes.
he's like an agent or something like that. Just his character is really out there in this. It's pretty funny, actually.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of
like
stuff
the
I like.
fake trailers for it, and then like
there's the movie opens with like a couple of fake trailers to introduce like the four main characters: Ben Stiller, Jack Black, Robert Downey Jr., and then one other guy. I can't remember who the actor was for that one, but like they're trailers for like their kind of characters that they normally play, and now they're doing a Vietnam movie based on a book that Nick Nolte's character wrote about about his experiences there, and then they end up and Steve Coogan is the director. Got Danny McBride as the demolitions expert, and they end up going out into the jungle and placing cameras, and it ends up turning into like this real thing because the director ends up dead, and the crew at first don't know that, so they're still acting like they're acting, and they're being attacked, and it's pretty crazy. I remember when I saw this in the theater, this movie just completely cracked me up. A lot of it still works. I think it's still funny, and I think if you haven't seen it, it's worth a watch. It's pretty funny. It's just kind of out there. I mean, some of it, now that I've seen more of their movies, with Ben Stiller being Ben Stiller, although not quite to the degree he sometimes gets where he's like super, super awkward. So like I think he was okay in this movie. Sometimes he can be a bit much for me. Jack Black was his normal self, but a little more subdued. So I think that's why it worked, is some of these actors were a little more subdued. And Robert Downey Jr. was actually the opposite. Like, he's going full on like method actor. He plays like a blonde Australian who then gets his skin dyed with a pigment to play a black character. So he actually does blackface in this movie. I'm like, I don't know how you got away with that, but I don't know if you could.
He was nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know if this movie would ever get made again, but yeah, he was. It's a weird movie with a lot of funny bits in it, so I would recommend it. It's on Amazon Prime.
Same year as Iron Man.
Oh, that's true. That's a kind of a contrast there.
Yeah.
But that's what I've been watching recently.
Yeah, I only watched 6 movies this time, so a bit of a lower week really for both of us. So first one, but it happens. You get busy, you want to do other stuff, or you just get lazy and you're tired.
I know how watching less movies is lazy for us.
Yeah. Or you don't want to like do something else for a while, But anyway, so first one I watched was Mandy from 2018, starring Nicolas Cage, Andrea Riseborough, and a ton of trippy visuals.
And Nicolas Cage going crazy with a bottle of booze in the bathroom.
Yep.
That was my favorite scene from that movie.
And he gets a chainsaw, has a dueling chainsaw. Don't forget, and so it's vaguely, and it's, the story, I guess, is rather sparse by design. So it's vaguely 1980s, and then, he's like a former veteran and alcoholic, and Andrew Riseborough's like his wife, titular character Mandy, and then like she gets seen by like a cult, kidnapped by a cult, and they use like some crazy like flesh-eating demon bikers or whatever to help them. She gets killed. Nicolas Cage goes on a rampage. That's about it. On a revenge quest.
Yeah, and when I watched this, people were raving about it, and I don't know. Maybe I need to see it again. I wanted to like it more than I did.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying I mean, it's different, which I really appreciate. It's very much designed to feel closer to like an experience than like a movie, more of a weird trip. It's harder to pin down like a more straightforward narrative, which I know a lot of people can really enjoy. And I had a good time with it for the most part. And, had the Cheddar Goblin. Everyone loves the Cheddar Goblin.
Yeah, there were parts that I could enjoy, and I like Nicolas Cage going full crazy.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, it didn't completely work for me. But
That's
there were bits.
great soundtrack, though.
Yeah.
Next, I watched Murder Ahoy, which was the last of the four Margaret Rutherford, Agatha Christie ones, where she plays Miss Marple. This time, she's on a boat, which is like a boat for like kids
I'm on a boat.
that teaches them to like build character and stuff. And she's like part of like a board of trustees, so she thinks, hey, something's not quite right with this boat. And she goes on and solves a mystery because that's what Miss Marple does. It's fun. I already talked about the other three movies in this series, so I was glad I was able to finish it off and enjoy all four movies. Highly recommended.
Cool.
Next, I watched Hang 'em High with Clint Eastwood, where he plays like a former lawman turned like cattle hand who buys some cattle, then whoops, those cattle were stolen. People think he's a bad guy, so then they try to hang him. He survives the hanging, then becomes a
Did
lawman.
they try to hang him high?
Yes, and then he goes after him after as gets deputized by like a local judge, and you know he does Clint Eastwood in a western,
All
and it's a
right.
good time.
I mean, that's always a good time.
Next, I watched the Ladykillers from the '60s. I don't remember the exact date, and this one was fun because it has just a really weird stacked cast. Because it had Peter Sellers, Alec Guinness, Herbert Lom, a bunch of very funny actors. And the gimmick is that they're all like it's a British movie. They're all bad guys, but so they stay in like the house because they're pretending they're like a string quartet, and they stay at this like boarding house, and the little old landlady just like, oh, you guys are so great, but they're actually just planning a heist. But then
Yeah.
things get weirder and sillier when it comes to the landlady.
Okay, did you liked this one?
Yes.
Okay, because have you seen the remake?
No, I never saw the remake. I heard it was bad.
Yeah, because I watched that when I was going through all of Tom Hanks' filmography, and I was like, oh, it's Tom Hanks, and it's a Coen Brothers film. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great, and oh god, it is got to be hands down the worst Coen brother film.
Hmm.
It was terrible, awful. So I'm glad to know that the original was good. I might have to check that one out
Yeah,
because it's a cool storyline. I like this story, but like I don't know, it like the Coens just dropped the ball on that movie.
huh. Well, this one is very particular in a British sort of way, just sort of acting calmly in the face of absurdity, like the weird stuff that happens to him.
Yeah, yeah. I might have to check that out if you liked that one. Yep.
And it's fun to see, Alec Guinness playing kind of like this skeevy looking guy.
Ben Kenobi is trying to pull a con.
Yeah, pretty much. Then I watched The Penguin Pool Murders, which is these two movies are part of a series about this school teacher named Miss Withers, and she happens to be it's a murder she wrote situation where she happens to be in a situation where like there's a murder, and then she helps solve the murder. This one, she's at the zoo taking kids to the zoo, and then like she sees a body fall into the penguin pool, and now she has to help the cops solve the murders. This was like early 1930s, so predates a lot of the other stuff, but still fun. This one and the other movie I watched, Murder on the Blackboard, also they work together as a pair because they're both like less than 90 minutes long, and they're fun little mysteries, and they got some good back and forth between her and the lead policeman as kind of this stuffy school teacher who's always even correcting the cops on like their spelling and their grammar and stuff. And that's all I had for me.
Well, very short.
What do you think you're going to watch next?
Well, actually, I just got another Netflix DVD in the mail today. I think it's a '80s movie. Actually, I've got it right here. The Changeling with George C. Scott from 1980.
Oh, I've heard good things about that one.
I've heard it's a pretty creepy movie, so I might have to watch that this weekend, maybe even tonight if I got time.
Oh yeah, I don't know. It's all dark. You don't want to be by yourself if it's a creepy movie.
I know, right? In my basement with all the lights off, watching a movie, I'll get scared.
Yeah,
So.
and for me, I've got a copy of John Wick that I got from the local library that I need to check out because I remember I watched that movie once, like a few years back, but then I don't really remember much of it. I must have been like half asleep or something when I was watching it because I thought I liked it, but I don't remember anything.
Okay, the first movie's pretty cool. The second movie, it gets more into the world, which is really cool, but like it gets more outlandish with its like just everybody is an assassin in New York City, like just everybody.
Nice.
And then the third movie strikes a better balance, and I actually liked how the series finished off. So overall, I'd actually recommend watching all three of the movies.
Plus, it's Keanu Reeves is an action movie, so
Yeah, and some of the action in these movies is spectacular. Like the third one, I think it's like the last half of the movie is just a gunfight and some sword fighting too. I think was in
nice.
there. But yeah, it just it gets crazy. So yeah, cool.
All right. Until then, you can find us on Twitter. I'm at Noah_Saturn, SATERN.
And I'm at AwesomeKM, and we're on Instagram at We Don't Know What to Watch. You can email us at we don't know what to watch at gmail.com. And until next time, keep watching.
Keep watching movies. And I'm Keanu Reeves, and I am an FBI agent.
I am an FBI agent.
Take care.